Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to Ed Up on the Ed Up Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you again in another episode. But today, we are recording here in person live at the Middle States Conference on Higher Education, or Middle States Commission on, did I say conference? Middle State Commission on Higher Education annual conference. Say that 3 times fast and you'll do it better than me. Here at Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at the Marriott, downtown Marriott, with about 1,600 or so of our colleagues across the industry. There is a buzz in the air, I have to tell you. People seem very, very excited about higher education today, and I have brought somebody special with me. You've heard her voice before. She's part of the EdUp Experience brand and network. Ladies and gentlemen, she's Dr. Lori Shanderson. She is host of EdUp Accreditation Insights.
I am.
On the EdUp Experience Network. Lori, how are you?
I am great. And, you know, I'm so excited to be here at this conference because there are so many people here that are dedicated to quality in education and, of course, accreditation standards that Middle States promotes. And it's just an exciting time, and I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you with me because I was hoping that you'd do a lot of the work and help me out, because I talk all the time, and I'm really tired of hearing myself talk. And you said earlier you were tired of hearing me talk, too.
Oh, I don't know if I said that, but I'm here anyway. Let's have some fun.
Well, we've got an amazing guest with us today. Let's get her in, and she knows a thing or two about higher ed and accreditation. She's Dr. Judy Sciple. She's Senior Vice President for Accreditation Relations and Services at MSCHE. Judy, welcome to the mic. How are you?
Thank you. Doing well. Excited to be here. We appreciate you being here as well.
Oh, thank you. I have to tell you, I'm sweating a little bit right now just to get through the introduction of you and that title, which is massive if you think about the scope of what you do and your role. Tell us a little bit about you, your background, and what you do for Middle States. Attention, higher ed leaders. Are you ready to transform your marketing and enrollment strategy? Don't miss Insights EDU, February 12th through 14th in New Orleans, the premier conference for higher education marketing and enrollment management. Spots are filling fast. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Let's go!
At Ellucian Live 2025, we're going to explore the magic of innovation. We want to imagine, believe, and achieve. It's happening April 6th through 9th, 2025 in Orlando, Florida, and we're going to explore technology, modernization, and
artificial intelligence.
Explore the latest technology solutions, discover industry insights, and make valuable connections as a global community. It's time to register for Ellucian Live 2025 at elive.ellucian.com.
Do you want to get invites to special events? Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes episodes, and original content? Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and become a subscriber today.
Sure. Well, let me just start. I've been with higher education, in the field of higher education, for pretty much my entire career. Prior to coming to Middle States, I was with Delaware Technical Community College. So
how long were you there, Judy?
I was there for 31 and a half years. I was. And you know when you start at an institution, all the different paths that your career is going to take. I never went into my original role at the institution thinking that I would end up with accreditation. But you get different experiences. You start to understand, things that either you're good at, that you really enjoy. And so when it was time for me to consider retirement, I'm not old. I wasn't ready to go off to Margaritaville.
21 is not old.
I thank you for that. I appreciate child labor laws.
Tell them like it is.
And when I was hired. However, I had, as part of my role there, when I retired, I was the Vice President for Institutional Effectiveness and Development. Part of that included overseeing accreditation for the institution for the last 12 years of my tenure. In order to run accreditation at an institution, you've got to get to know it. So I became a peer evaluator with the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, which is such a big part of what we do. We couldn't do our work of accreditation without the peer evaluators.
There wouldn't be enough people.
There wouldn't be enough people. And so I was one of the people that now I'm depending on, the whole commission depends on, and values so much in order to do the work that we do.
There are so many people here at this meeting, and that speaks to a lot about their interest in accreditation. Why do you think we have so many in attendance at this year's conference?
So I will say that the institutions right now really do depend on the accreditors for trying to navigate some of the really difficult things that they're dealing with. Yeah, is there a regulatory aspect to the work that we do? Absolutely. But we like to, and we try so hard to make sure they understand the message that it's not just about regulatory. Equally important is about us being able to support them in the innovation that allows them to do what they need to do through the lens of their mission. And I do feel like that is a unique piece of Middle States. I haven't been involved with other accreditors, and I'm probably not going to be. However, with Middle States, that is a very important part of what we do. We're not prescriptive. We're not somebody who's going to come in and say, yeah, we have set standards. We've set regulatory conditions that we have to manage and oversee, but we don't tell them how they need to do that. We say, look at what your mission requires you to do. Look at the work that you have committed to your students, to your community, and then you figure out how you meet the standards in a way that allows you to achieve that.
Right, because it's not about regulation, but more about quality, right? We're trying to ensure quality.
Absolutely. Quality is a big piece of it. And I think that's why our members, going back to your original question, they want to come and learn, not just from us, but from their peers.
Absolutely.
They network. They find great resources here at the institution that are their own, at the conference here, that are their own peers.
Yeah, I've witnessed that.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
I've witnessed that since I've been here. So many people connecting and talking about different things. It's really awesome to see.
I was talking with Dr. Heather Perfetti, Doctors Gilmore and Conway Turner yesterday, all at the same time, by the way. So that was a lot.
You had your hands full.
That was a lot of very powerful women in higher ed. But we were talking about how it's the side conversations sometimes that make the biggest difference. You know, you come off a keynote with John King, you go, you know what? The thought he had, and I said it yesterday, I'll say it again today, where he goes, not everybody needs a 2 or 4 year degree, but you sure need a hell of a lot of people around you that have one. It was like, boom, it's so true. And you said something that I think makes a big difference, which is figure it out, quote unquote. How many times have you heard or I've heard, you know what, Lori, that's a really good idea, but you just can't do that. Accreditation. It's just
right.
Accreditation. You know what? The accreditor is not going to let us. You know, they're going to, we can't because of the accreditor. And it's like, well, wait a minute. That is not quite how it works, is it, Judy?
No, it really isn't. I think sometimes the individuals who are saying that are looking for a scapegoat, perhaps.
The red herring, if you will.
Perhaps. We probably shouldn't go too far down that road. However, I will say that we're working very hard to get the message out about the types of things that we want to support with our institutions, even with institutions who need to get back on track or who are struggling. We work very closely with them to try and get things back on track.
Yeah, because I think rumor has it that Middle States is not punitive, but is more collaborative and wants to see qualities in the programs and wants to support them.
No,
efforts.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. Going back to the peer evaluator role, though, as well, that pulls everybody into that experience. When the peer evaluators are going out to do visits, whether it's for reaccreditation or for an institution that's trying to get reaffirmed, they learn not just so much from each other on the peer evaluation team, but also from the institution that they're visiting. And I think that's why you see the hugs, and that's why you see the energy in the room and everybody really excited to see each other, because they've either been on their campus or served on a team with them. Or when I was a peer evaluator, it was during COVID, I reached out to a network of people that I had gotten friendships with, and said, what are you guys doing? Because we need help. Every institution needed help at that point in time.
Outstanding.
And there's so much confidence in the quality of the review when you know that you've been peer evaluated. You know, you're coming from a similar type of institution. You understand the nuances of that institution, and you're able to bring that as you evaluate one of your peers. And it is a very collaborative and I think a friendly process, because you're trying to help institutions know where they are, and you have some insight into the type of institution that they're representing.
Yeah, it's definitely collegial, and equally important, the peer evaluators, they understand the quality and the standards that they believe in, that their institution is held to, and so that is in a very collegial way carried forward on those visits.
Why do you think, Judy, that perhaps there are still colleagues out there that are scared of the accreditor. I mean, coming out through higher ed myself, there were times where someone would say to me, you don't give more words than you absolutely have to give to the person who's asking you questions from the accreditor. It's like, that's so old school. That doesn't exist anymore. I mean, we're kind of in this together.
You know, I'm laughing because when I was at my previous institution and I was first introduced to accreditation, the person who introduced me was our former vice president for academic affairs. I won't use any names, loved her to death, but she was a little old school. And she ended up pulling me aside one day and she said, Judy, the one thing you have to remember about accreditors is they are not your friend. And it was years and years and years ago. But that speaks to your point.
Still exists.
In terms that, then that surprises me. Mm-hmm. That surprises me to hear that. I will tell you, so that's how I started. And that was how I was taught. And when I met my own liaison at Middle States, that was when I started to understand a little bit better about the collaborative nature. And I actually remember that, and I try and sense that with the institutions, like who's in that camp that I was in when I was taught? Mm-hmm. And how can I really structure this relationship in a way that they better understand?
Because that relationship is very important. But Joe, you mentioned that individuals would not say as much. Like, you were told to kind of just keep it short and keep it with the facts. But I've experienced the total opposite, where there's just so much fluff and there's so much narrative that doesn't speak to evidence to support the area that's being evaluated. I've almost seen the opposite, that there's all of this extra thrown in that doesn't really speak to what's being asked for in that standard.
We do have a focus on doing the analysis, looking at the data, really trying to determine what that means for your institution so that you can make those improvements as part of this accreditation process. It's not about us coming in to do that, but we're giving you the structure to be able to do that yourself.
I've got to ask you one quick question. By the way, this was a great sound effect that I didn't play for that moment.
It's not what you know. It's what you can prove.
Isn't that the truth of accreditation?
Like
you got to prove it. And that's part of being able to be creative within and around the standards and prove that you're meeting the standard, but prove it in the way, prove it, right? I mean, no accreditor comes in, Mill States doesn't come in and say, you can't do that. We just saw guidance come out. I say I follow the 90 credit bachelor thing pretty closely. And I'm just wondering, like, who's going to do this? Who's going to come out with guidance? And then here comes Middle States with guidance saying, you know what? Basically, let me summarize. We never set the 120 credit hour threshold. If you're going to do something different, prove that it has value. Prove that. And I was like, thank you for coming out and saying that, because if without that guidance, we all sit in our role in higher ed going, well, we have to get this approved, and the accreditor is not going to approve this, and the accreditor is not. It's like, well, wait a minute. We don't know what we're talking about until we get that guidance. So I was so happy to see that come out.
Yeah, that 3-year bachelor degree, we've started to get some questions about that recently. And I believe we know there are some accreditors that have very specific credit limits attached to each level of credential. You're right. We do not have that. And it does allow for innovation at institutions, but we also do have to remind them, you just need to tell us and show the evidence that you have the rigor that we do require for that. How do you define that the students are getting the type of instruction worthy of this particular credential? The other piece that we talk about too is institutions considering 3-year bachelor degrees, they do need to speak with their state
there's other people.
Because there are other regulatory agencies. But we'll work with them from the beginning if they have that path cleared for them to be able to do so.
Judy, back to the conference. What excites you most about being here this year at the 2024 conference?
Well, I have to tell you, it's been a whirlwind. So I've been with the commission since August of 2023. And I've been in this particular role just since last August of 2024. So I am hearing names. I'm meeting with people, unfortunately, on Zoom often. And today, tomorrow, yesterday, I'm able to put some names together and faces and really just cement that relationship that we've started to build. That's a huge part of what Middle States values, between the assignment of the vice president liaisons to specific institutions. That creates relationships, the support that everybody at the commission provides to institutions, And then to be able to be here and make that connection in person, it's a really special thing. And knowing that everybody here believes in the work that we all believe in, it's a nice community.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. An incredible episode here in person at the Middle States Commission on Higher Education Annual Conference. I think I have to start saying MSCHE Annual Conference. That might have to, otherwise there's too many opportunities to screw it up. So the MSCHE Annual Conference with an amazing guest. Judy, how'd you feel? See that you were nervous about the podcast, or they prepared you? Was it as bad? Was it as crazy as you thought it was, or passive compared to how it was built up?
There was no preparation. There were no questions. I had no idea what the topic. I had no idea what the topic was going to be, and it was great. You guys are great. We look forward to all of that you're doing to help spread the word of not just our work, but the good work of our institution. So thank you for being here.
She is Dr. Judy Sciple, Senior Vice President for Accreditation, Relations and Services at MSCHE. You've just ed up. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to ed up on the Ed Up Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio and Dr. Lori Shanderson.
Hello.
Back with you yet again here at the Middle States Commission on Higher Education Annual Conference in Philadelphia. Record attendance, Lori. Record attendance. Over 1,600 people. There's people everywhere.
So many people.
It's pretty cool. And you said it earlier on an episode that you're excited to see this many people excited about. You're excited to see people excited about accreditation.
I am. It's amazing.
How amazing is it?
Super duper amazing.
Okay, because I said that every time you spoke, I was going to give you a button, so here it is.
Amazing.
Just like you.
Thank you.
And Lori, we've been here. We've done, I don't know how many interviews today, you think? Like 6, 7?
At least 6 or 7. But it's been fun. It's been great. We've learned so much. We've met so many nice people from Middle States as well as all of the member institutions.
Yes, and we have 2 individuals with us from Middle States today, saving the best for last, perhaps. That's what they said. Dr. Heather Perfetti, I want to let you know the gentleman in front of me today said they were saving the best for last. Well, let's give him an intro, Lori. You ready?
Absolutely.
Go.
We have Ryan Hartnett. He's the VP for Institutional Field Relations. And we also have Terence Peevy, who is the lead VP for Institutional Field Relations. So thank you. Welcome.
IFR, Institutional Field Relations. You don't shorten it?
We don't shorten it.
It does sound too like I'm going to take your money, IFR.
Well,
like
what
the
does
IFR
that
is
mean?
coming?
I want to know what that means.
Well, Ryan, it's one of those things where you being a new vice president, you probably can tell it better than I can.
Right away, he's putting it right on me.
Well done, Chair.
Excellent. So we interact with the institutions. Our principal role here is to be a guide or liaison to all the colleges and universities that are part of Middle States. So, that can be something from interpreting policy or procedure, helping them to work through their self-study and evaluation, but really just being there for the institutions when we can. So.
Now, does that mean that you, Ryan, specifically have a certain number of institutions assigned to you that you support?
That's correct. We each have a portfolio of institutions, and those are kind of like my institutions. I work with the accreditation liaisons at each institution to help further along their processes and hopefully get them through self-study and evaluation and reaccreditation.
How many of you are there? I know there's only one Ryan.
Yeah, there is only one of me.
Yes. How many institutional field relation representatives might there be?
I think we've got 5 right now.
5 and 2 in the queue.
Yeah, 2 in the queue.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Terence, why did Ryan pull me aside and say that he was by far the best IFR that there is? Do you think that was well, I don't know the right word. Do you think that was good of him to do that? Presumptive, perhaps?
He is a very talented individual.
Surprise!
It's great. I think one of the great things about Ryan, and we obviously know each other. We've been working together for almost a year, getting close to a year. Yeah. Just really enjoys the work. He has a rich background in higher education, has been able to transfer all those skills into this vice president position and building relationships and making schools feel very comfortable, regardless if the information is something that will help them move forward or maybe something that the institution is not necessarily comfortable with. He just has a great delivery and a great customer service bent. So we are very happy to have him on board.
That's very kind of you. Thank you, Terence.
So tell me, Ryan, what are some of the major concerns that the liaisons are bringing to you from the institutions? What are they saying How do we deal with this? This is something that we're concerned about. What are you fielding these days?
So I actually was an ALO for a lot of years. So I was an accreditation liaison officer for about 10 years. So I know those. Inconceivable! Yeah. So I understand, some of the pressures, and they're getting pressures from their own people. They've got an institutional research office. They've got faculty. They've got administration. They're wondering, hey, what do we do? How do we properly assess and collect evidence for our upcoming self-study? And then they're looking to us to try to help them kind of navigate that. And then, there's the challenges of, accreditation and assessment itself and understanding the policies and the procedures. And some of our ALOs are pretty new, so they need a little bit more, hand-holding, if you will, which I am more than happy to give because there is a lot to learn in that role as an accreditation liaison officer. So really supporting those people on our campuses is a primary thing for us.
Do you agree, Terence?
I totally agree. And I think, too, is that communication piece. When we are having these conversations with the ALOs, it could be as practical as adding some clarity to certain policies and procedures, or it could be preparing for a visit. And the visits can be both enjoyable and those that are a little bit more high pressure, mainly because we unfortunately have some schools that are out of compliance and we need to do a in-person visit with a team to do a little bit more detail and research on certain elements in order to form a commission action. So this level of communication is so key for what we do because it has to be done in a professional way, in a humane way, but also very clear so that the institutions at the end of that conversation have a good sense of where they stand and what they need to do, especially if they're out of compliance, of what they need to do to get back into compliance.
Well, how do you, in field relations, how do you prepare for what's coming down the pike? Like, how do you stay informed about the different issues that you need to be aware of?
Listening to the EdUp Experience podcast and family of podcasts, by the way.
That was my first choice. Now I have to go to my second choice. Well, as you all know, and you probably heard this throughout today, higher education is ever-changing. So internally, we have a number of individuals who are kind of at the pulse of things that are happening. Of course, our president is, with her affiliations and just outreach, she's able to bring information in. We have a policy unit that actually translates the policies from the USDE when they do come out to our staff. So we have meetings to kind of understand and make sure we have a good understanding of it as we have these conversations with ALOs. And we obviously get a lot of news. We have news feeds that hit our inboxes every day. And so if things pop up that that kind of circle in terms of interest or things we need to follow up on, we do have conversations about it and really try to, as a commission, build strategies around how do we move forward.
That's Lori's better check in for her flight. Or her fiance's calling. We're not sure what that alarm says. One thing I am sure of is that I do have it. I don't know if you know this, Terence, but I have a recording of Ryan talking to his member institutions, and they were trying to innovate, and this is what he said.
Execute Order 66.
I don't know what the heck you were talking about, Ryan, but innovation is really important for institutions, and Middle States supports that, right? I mean, we want institutions to innovate, especially around these financial challenges that they're having.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important right now. I think innovation is key to survival here in the higher education landscape. I mean, we've got to be real about the challenges that our institutions face. And just like every other industry, we've got to innovate to continue to succeed. Many of our schools are faced with lower enrollments than they had just 5-10 years ago. Yikes! And that kind of challenge can present another opportunity for a school to say, hey, maybe we choose a different strategy, do things a little bit differently. But innovation is key to what Middle States values. It's part of our core values, and I think it's key to our institutions doing well, especially in this day and age.
So as we talk about innovation, you can hit that button. You know which one I'm going
to... Execute Order 66.
Not that one, Lori?
No.
I know which one. Okay.
Yeah,
artificial intelligence.
I'm curious to know your thoughts.
So artificial intelligence, it really is a conversation. It's a conversation starter here.
Artificial intelligence.
And not to pitch the conference because everyone's here, but we have a session that's coming up where I'm going to take copious notes because it's something that I feel like I need to get a better understanding of. But I think there's this dichotomy of those who are really excited about AI because of all the efficiency and the data wrangling that goes along with it. But then there's the dark side of AI where people just think it's going to take over the world like Terminator.
Order 66.
Did you set me up for that?
I did.
There's the excited side, I feel, and then there's the side that's afraid.
Yes.
I think that is what the other side is. Not really understanding it, knowing how to implement it, how to embrace it, knowing what it really means. I mean, it's been scary for me to think about it. How they say you eat an elephant one bite at a time is, I think, how I've been able to consume this notion of AI, by understanding it piece by piece by piece, understanding its power and knowing how we're going to insert that into how we educate students.
No, I totally agree. And I think it's a matter of just having people understand there are ways that AI can be of use and it won't take over the world. Anything in an excess can be dangerous. But I think with AI, because it's so mysterious to a number of people, they just don't see a practical use for it. But when you think about, typing a Word document, that's a form of AI. The way it corrects your document or tells you should consider another word. But I think people think of and I'm going to go all the way into the sci-fi mode. People think of the world domination piece that we're going to be run by, AI, and we won't have this ability to kind of keep it under wraps. So I think this conference today, at least the session that's coming up, is probably going to give us some really good ways to show how AI can be useful and it can be managed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think our faculty have had fears of AI, especially with students using AI to generate work, perhaps plagiarize work. But I think those who have embraced it, maybe been early adopters, can see the value of it. I've seen in our communications programs, even legal programs where we're using artificial intelligence to form answers, to fill out templates, to come up with forms, to help us with, social media management. There's so many uses of AI. So now I think the burden for our educators is to instruct our students on how to use it efficiently and effectively. I think any new technology kind of goes through this.
Right?
Yeah, the internet was scary.
You can just type something. Right. There's a paper there. Right. Student can put their name on it, not properly.
Well, that's always been around.
Right?
So, yeah, and right. Students have been at it for many years.
The original AI was a family member writing an essay for a college student. That happened. That has happened before.
Oh.
Yeah. That one is even harder to detect. Yeah. So, yeah, that's always been a challenge for us. But
what do you guys make of the 90-credit bachelor's degree? Are you hearing, whatever way you want to take this, are you hearing institutions go down this pathway? I saw the guidance from Middle States, by the way, that came out and said, we don't set it at 120. You can do whatever the heck you want, but you better prove that it's got value.
Exactly.
What are you hearing? You hearing anything?
Now listen up.
Insights EDU 2025 is almost here. Join us February 12th through 14th in New Orleans for the most anticipated higher education marketing and enrollment management event of the year.
I like that.
Imagine 3 action-packed days filled with game-changing insights, real-world case studies, and a hands-on workshop designed to transform your marketing strategy and boost your program enrollment. Learn from speakers at Google, Meta, Reddit, MIQ Digital, and top schools across the nation. Network with industry leaders, exchange ideas, and discover the tools to drive real results. This is your opportunity to stay ahead of the competition and meet the demands of today's modern learners. Don't wait. Spots are filling fast. Mark your calendar, rally your team, and head to insightsedu.com to register now. The era of the modern learner is here, and you need to be part of it. We'll see you in New Orleans. Are you going to miss Ellucian Live this year?
I don't think so.
Exactly. So you might as well register right now at elive.ellucian.com. Ellucian Live 2025, April 6th through 9th in Orlando, Florida. Do not miss it.
Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content? That's right, original content, invites to special events, and more? Do you want to get all this while helping to sustain EdUp? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's edupexperience.com and subscribe today.
So I have 2, maybe 3 schools that have had some very early conversations with me about it. Obviously, I repeated what you said about our guidance, and for whatever reason, they thought that we would limit, this innovation, this kind of free thinking of how they can actually develop a 90-credit degree. And so it's almost like once I gave them the guidance, they were like, great. I mean, like a deep dive release. So I think there are a number of schools that are considering it, but think about it. If you actually get to reducing the amount of time on campus, it impacts other elements. So you have to really be thoughtful about it, especially if you're looking at it from a revenue perspective, if you're looking at it from a student life perspective. It really is more than just saying, okay, let's condense all of our degree requirements into 3 years. It's really understanding what does that do to your community as well, because there are definitely some ripple effects, I think, in addition to just doing that one piece that could affect other parts of the college life.
And, there's a larger piece, right? And it is the actual accrediting body itself. So if I am an institution and I want to move to a 90-degree program and my accrediting body doesn't support a 90-degree program, because there are no more regional accreditors, I have options. So I might say I might be better aligned to go to another accreditor.
Like Middle States?
Right. That meets
Is
meets
that what
my
you're
needs.
indicating?
That's true.
I'm saying that it is a good value proposition for those institutions that want to be able to remain flexible and innovative, is to be aligned with a partner that believes in and supports them as they strive to be competitive.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
I agree, and I was going to actually reach over to Ryan because he's an academic, and I would say that there has to be really smart people in the room to develop a curriculum that allows the opportunity to get all that into that condensed amount of time, but give them outcomes so they're prepared to take on jobs and other responsibilities to that major. So I want Ryan to kind of dive in on this as well.
Yeah, so I think many of our institutions uphold a general education or liberal arts curriculum in a baccalaureate level, so that would obviously need to be looked at and adjust to a 3-year. But, they have 3-year bachelor's degrees in Canada, for example, and UK. And then if you go on, you get a bachelor's with honors with a 4-year degree. So a little bit different system up there.
You want to know what I think?
What do you
think? Want to think, Ryan? You guys didn't read my 3 predictions for 2025 yet, have you? That's okay if you haven't. That's fine. I'll just call you out live here on the Ed Experience podcast. So I think schools will see more than 90 credit. It's going to happen. What I would do, maybe it's a what would you do? What I would do is, first of all, you're going to take out a lot of the general eds that don't go with the major. The schools that I've seen so far are building the degrees in 60 units of credentials and 30 in the major, or 45 and 45, whatever it is. But you're doing 15 credits in cybersecurity defense so that if I have an out, I at least have a credential on my way out, and then I'm coming back and I'm stacking credentials as I move along. But I think that competency-based education, as much as it is of value for schools, it is really hard to change their traditional model. So what I think will happen eventually is you'll see schools go with a 90 credit degree, and then they're going to create a year add-on, not for the 90, not to get to 120, but a credential of some kind that will be their foray into CBE, because you can make it after the degree is done. And you can build it outside of the traditional structure. So you can add on this credential in, let's call it critical thinking leadership with a foundation of artificial intelligence on top of your 3-year degree, but in a CBE format because you've gone out to get a job. That's what I think is going to happen.
When I heard this conversation about this 90 degree...
You didn't read my article either.
I have not read it.
Oh.
I'm sorry. But I heard that...
My ego is deflating.
The deficit would come from the general education courses. And of course, that will make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. But I heard that what would happen is there would be a combination of, maybe there is a sociology course that you take that has assignments in writing. So now if you had a writing course as a gen ed, now that is combined so you can obtain these skills in a content-related course so that you don't miss out on learning how to write, or you don't miss out on these skills, but there's a better use of them in a combination of sorts, because that is scary to think that some of those basic things that we would like to believe enhance critical thinking and analytical thinking would not be removed, but would stay intact.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. You'd need to incorporate some of that, what would be traditionally called general education curriculum, within your program curriculum to be able to get students to achieve that institutional student learning outcome that you're at. So I think that's a really important idea.
Well, and that's the point. You still have to meet the learning objectives of whatever. Right. How you do that, you still have to prove that you did it. That's the point. So anybody that comes to the credit bachelor's 94, 96, whatever, still has to prove that the competencies have been achieved through whatever combinations they make. I think it's going to be an innovative space.
Yeah, we also have state, we work within a regulatory triad with the federal government in our states, and some of our states have not opened this up to 90 credits yet. So just want to point that out for our listeners.
Thanks a lot, Ryan, for killing innovation. No, you didn't do it. You did.
Middle States is all for this innovation, but I think it may take a little while for some of our state legislators to catch up with this movement.
Well, what else? Go ahead. No, you go.
I was going to say, I know that we have to wrap up soon, but I'm curious to know, with over 1,600 individuals here at the Middle States Conference, like what you're most excited about this year.
I think for me, it's just always the reconnection with the schools that I've worked with throughout the year. We obviously are virtual, so we do a lot of our meetings online. But it's just something that really kind of ties that relationship together when we are kind of shoulder to shoulder or in a session together or just having a conversation face-to-face. As much as I love the virtual world, I think that's a nice element that we all really enjoy, is just really the camaraderie and just the companionship of just everybody being here all at once for a singular purpose.
I'm more nascent in this role. I just started in March, so I've been seeing my staff and my fellow colleagues on Zoom screens for 9 months, and now I'm like, wow, well, you're taller than I thought, because this is the first time I'm meeting them in person. So what an exciting thing. And then, of course, as Terence said, we've got institutions here, and they're always, that's our VP. They want to come up, they want to talk to me, and it's just so nice to be able to meet folks here in person and get excited about the work we do. And for me, I'm starting off, so it's nice to start to have those personal connections with the folks I'm going to be working with, hopefully for a long time.
Well, thank you both for joining us, being here representing Middle States Institution. We really appreciate it, and we're excited to be at the conference, and we're excited to have spoken to you on this episode of the EdUp Experience.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Almost messed up my own introduction. This is Dr. Joe Salustio, back with you here live at the Middle States Commission on Higher Education Annual Conference in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with 1,600 of my best friends across higher education at a record attendance. And what does that say? What does that record attendance say about our collective passion to help restore the value of higher education across a public that, for probably not as good of reasons as we think, they have distrust our institutions that are really innovating. Like, to say higher ed's not innovating, there are institutions that are innovating. We're talking to innovators here, and Middle States really promotes innovation amongst institutions, as long as you can prove that what you're doing is producing good outcomes. And speaking of good outcomes, you have to have good inputs, and there's nobody better than Dr. Lori Shanderson.
I knew that was coming.
Host of EdUp Accreditation Insights, part of the EdUp Experience Network, who is my guest, and really you're doing most of the work. Lori, how are you?
I am well. I'm enjoying the conference, and it's exciting to meet so many people that care about accreditation. I must say that, being from the accreditation space.
Well, I will tell you, you're doing really good with your energy level. I've had 3 cups of coffee. Maybe it's because I've done so much podcasting here at conferences before, but why are you so awake?
I don't know. Maybe because I had 4 cups of coffee.
Let's go.
All right. Well, no stopping you now. We're going to have a great conversation with our guest today. Let's bring him in. First, you will recognize him by his voice if you know who he is. He's Dr. Stephen Rose. He's president at Passaic Community College. Stephen, welcome to an EdUp. Mike, how are you?
I am glad to be here.
You are. You look very happy.
I am very happy.
All the time?
Pretty much.
Yeah?
Yeah, talking accreditation, what could make you happier? It doesn't get any better than that.
The excitement is off the charts. We have somebody with us today that's going to tell us all about accreditation. No pressure to her. She did not get the prep binder, though, that went out, so I don't know where it's going to go. She's Trey Patterson. She's a director for volunteer services at MSCHE. Trey, what is up? And you didn't get the binder.
No, I didn't. Hello, welcome. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, I did, just to the audience, I did tell my folks here that they didn't get the binder, and they were sweating at the beginning of this episode. There is no binder. We have no planning here at the EdUp Experience podcast, other than to pass it off to Lori, who's going to take it from here.
Yeah, I'm super ready, because we've already recorded so many podcasts today, and something that's come up multiple times is actually the site visit and the site visit team. So, Trey, I'm curious to know, as you think about coordinating the site visit teams, because peer review is so important to the process, how do you assign the teams thinking about the complexities of the institutions? Like, how do you put these teams together that go out and do what they do?
You just made the list!
That's a great question. I love my job because it's sort of like a matchmaking process. Mm-hmm. So if it's this analogy of matchmaking, we're studying the criteria of the school. What's the population? What's the enrollment? Is it a public school? Is it a private school? Is it a for-profit school? Is it in the city? Is it an urban school? Is it rural? All of these criteria. And we go through our database. We have I want to say 1,800 peer evaluators. And so with our peer evaluators, we're seeing who matches these types of schools. Is it an art school? Okay, well, let's see if we've got a faculty member in our database and we could pair up that individual to review that institution so that it's a true peer review process. It's a peer-to-peer process where we're getting the best, most qualified evaluators to go out and review and give quality feedback.
Thank you.
So let me ask you a question. I've chaired many teams, so I thank you for staffing those teams, and the teams have been great. Who are you lacking right now? Who is the hardest to fill? Where you don't have, I know you said you have 1,800, which is a lot, but I bet there's 1,700 of them are all one type, and then who are you missing?
We are absolutely missing individuals with financial expertise.
That's what I thought.
So people who have experience with audits, people who have CPAs, CFOs, any of these individuals, we welcome them. Please contact us. Please reach out. You can email peerevaluator@msche.org. And we are happy to review your resume and get you in volunteering with us.
That's not surprising because so many people are afraid and don't understand the financial aspects of an academic institution. And it can be intimidating. So having someone who is really expert in that area, I'm sure, would be a big help to you all to help complement the teams that you're sending out.
It's also the area where schools are having the most challenges these days.
Yeah.
Is that true? How true is that,
Very.
Stephen? I know it's true, but give us an idea of what you're seeing at the commission, as commissioner.
Sure.
Is this like everybody's coming in with some troubles?
Yeah, look, the business model of higher education is changing. It's very, very difficult. Students have a lot of choices to make. There's more and more students who are not choosing to go for higher education. Higher education isn't as universally popular as it once was. So you've got colleges of all different types, and so if your enrollment is down 10%, if it's down 20%, if it's down 30%, that's a lot for a college to deal with. Now, with good planning, and that's what Middle States teaches, is good planning and do good strategic planning. Most colleges should be able to get past it because, I always, when I'm talking with colleges, I always say, look, you can be a fine institution at 10,000 students. You can be a fine institution at 5,000 students. You just have to adapt, and you have to be able to be resilient. You have to be able to be flexible, but you got to plan. But unfortunately, not every college does a great job with that, and they're struggling today.
Tell them like it is.
One of the really interesting parts about what you just said, and I think this is true from all the presidents that I've interviewed, and people in higher ed in general, is when you go through turbulent times that we're experiencing now, it's really hard to accept the fact that maybe you're overbuilt. Maybe you have 10,000 students, or you have 8 now, and you had 10 before. To go, okay, we're probably not going to be at 10 again, given this environment. We probably will be at 6 or at 5. And that's okay as long as we make the decisions that we need to make to right-size the institution around that. And they're hard decisions to make. But hoping for 10 again and having your net tuition revenue and state support equal 5,000 to support 5 is where the gap really is created.
We call it magical thinking. And that's, that we've had colleges that, have appeared before us where we've done visits, and they say, our enrollment's been declining for the past 10 years, but this fall we're going to be up 12%, and that's going to balance our budget. And, okay, what are you basing that on? But that's where you don't get the answer. Yikes!
I have a question for you, Trey, about these type of concepts. So there's so much going on right now, issues with finances and DEI and just everything. How do you prepare your teams to be able to address these things when they go out on their site visits? How do you train them and keep them up to speed?
Absolutely. So we do have training that we offer.
Is it in a binder format?
No, it's not. It's not. So we do training. All of our evaluators, they have to complete training prior to the visit. And we also have additional traditional, I would say, informal, like webinars and so forth, where evaluators are open to taking these sessions. But, our evaluators are also from our institutions, so they're very much aware of the concerns that's going on at the institution, and they're able to provide recommendations to the peer institutions based off of not only our standards, our policies and procedures, but just some more of informal observations that they're experiencing at their school, and they may see this is also impacting this other institution.
Yeah, that's great. They can have some empathy because they're dealing with similar challenges, and because they're peer institutions, they may have even more understanding of what they're going through.
Absolutely. We really stress that this is not like you're going to go out to the school and I got you, This is a collegial environment where we're offering feedback to each other. That's what we want our peers, our evaluators, to do with their peers.
I got a question for you. This is going to be a left fielder. We have this thing now.
Artificial intelligence.
I've done some site visits before, and I've been given like a self-evaluation report that's 1,000 pages or this and it's like, okay, I got to review this in a 2-day period and with my peers and evaluate. And you just go, the mounds of information that the volunteers have to go through. Volunteers. It's not like you're talking about like whisking in for a day, taking a look at the school, talking to a couple students, going to dinner and having a great time and a couple of cocktails, and in my case, maybe more than a couple. But it's work. It's work, and you're doing intense work with the goal of helping this institution. So you can't get it wrong. You have to get it right. But it's a lot. And you just go, is AI an area that you think could, I don't know, speed up evaluations as a tool? I don't even know how, but is that something that comes up?
Well, it has not yet come up from where I stand as far as it being a tool to assist or be of concern with. But, we do give our evaluators 6 weeks to prepare. We provide them with the materials to read through to prepare for the visit. And here, I think I might pass the ball over to
Well, I'm wondering, are they using AI to prepare now? Are they shoving documents in AI? Can you give me summaries?
I haven't heard of anybody using it yet.
They wouldn't tell you.
No, but look, I don't think there's any doubt it will.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's coming. I don't think there's any question about that, and it could be very effective in terms of doing that. I don't think it replaces what we do. Hey, if it can make it a little easier,
if because you give me an executive summary or something.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's. But one thing that Trey said, I will tell you the one thing that just from my experience of going out on these visits, the one problem we have sometimes is people have a very hard time separating where they came from, their home institution, from the institution they're visiting. So they come in.
What do you mean?
So we're always looking at how you're doing assessment of your academic programs. Well, there are dozens of ways of assessing academic programs. There's not one way. But at times, you'll have somebody coming in, and they do it a certain way in their institution, and they come in and say, well, you don't have Form 2247 for institution.
Or the binder.
Or the binder, exactly. And why don't you have a binder? And why don't you do it this way?
We use binders.
And that's my job as chair to stop that. But I remember I did a visit a couple years ago, and I had one person who they were great. They were a great, great choice, and it was their first visit, so they didn't know any better. But it took a while for them to understand. No, there are many ways of getting to the same end, and you gotta be flexible, and you can't just be myopic and only look at one way of doing things.
You're the co-host, and I'm curious to ask you a question, Steve.
Sure.
It's about your attendance here at the conference. Mm-hmm. So there are many presidents here. Why do you come?
Well, I just figured out this is my first Middle States conference. So I have been here, started in the mid-1990s,
wow.
And I've been coming ever since.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding you. And so obviously I value it. I mean, it is great. Number one, it's great. I will skip a few of the sessions here because I have a great time sitting here in this conference room here, meeting my colleagues, some of which I haven't seen in a while. I probably have talked to at least 3 colleges today where I visited in the past. And they want to catch up and talk about things because once you do a visit, they consider you a colleague and they call you, and it all becomes, we've become a family around here.
But that's important for our listeners to know is why the presidents attend and what their commitment is and what they get out of their attendance.
We had the opening plenary last night with the chancellor of the SUNY system.
What did you think about that?
He was fabulous. He did a great job. I think he put it into terms that everyone could understand. We have a lot of challenges. This is not going to be an easy decade to come in higher education. Anybody who thinks it is crazy. It's going to be tough. We knew it was going to be. We knew it a long time ago. We knew it before the pandemic. The pandemic has made it even harder. This is going to be really tough time for all of us, and we need any kind of competitive advantage we can get. Coming here and meeting some of the smartest people you could possibly, we got 1,500 really, really smart people here attending this conference, and the more I can interact with them, I learn from them. And if I could come out with 2-3 new ideas from a conference like this, it was well worth being here.
Pretty good answer, don't you think? Pretty good answer.
Yeah. Hey, you come 31 times, you got to get something right,
well-crafted answer, as if you've been here 31 times. Yeah. Truth be told, though, you talked about it's going to be a tough time for higher ed. It is. We have seen tough times before. I think what makes this a little bit different is the confluence of factors that we're dealing with. But in the end, institutions can survive. They can thrive.
Absolutely.
They will, as long as we tackled the tough decisions in front of us. If we avoid those decisions, that's when closures take place.
You stick your head in the sand these days, you're going to lose.
Trey, with the volunteers, when you go through training, is there a lot of, has the training changed over the last 5 years because of some of the headwinds? Maybe we're addressing things that we didn't have to address as much as peer evaluators. Or is it the same?
I mean, with that, and I honestly have to say that I'm not over the training department.
Yeah.
So with the training that is coming out, we're constantly seeing what is pressing, what do our evaluators need to know, how are we updating that information to ensure that they're getting the most updated, that they're prepared.
They have to know the trends.
Yeah, on the visits. So we work internally to get that information out to them.
How many volunteers do you manage it? Volunteer services, like how many people you're dealing with at one time, managing, onboarding, bringing, all that?
Yeah, well, we have a database of 1,800, and I would say, I believe it's 89% of our member institutions have at least one peer evaluator. We have an institution that has 17 peer evaluators. Yeah, it's very rare. We have a handful of them that have 15, 14. And so what I imagine has happened is that an individual became a peer evaluator. They went back to the institution. They told everyone else they're also filling out their application to be peer evaluators, and then they come in. So there is a screening process that takes place to be an evaluator. You have to have a minimum of 3 years in higher education. You have to be at a member institution. And you also have to meet our commission needs at the time. And so that's sort of this threshold at minimum. And then
17 at one institution, I tell you, they probably have no concerns.
Yeah.
I mean, to have that many.
Yeah.
But that also helps create a culture of accreditation. I could imagine that that's a very efficiently run institution.
There is a correlation between institutions that have peer evaluators and how well they're doing versus those that do not have evaluators at all. And maybe they have some sort of adverse action. It's not always the case.
Right.
But there is a correlation there.
Also, it's amazing professional development. You're looking to get professional development out of your team, so that makes sense. Somebody went, this is the best professional development you could ever have, which is basically evaluating through a peer review, evaluating other institutions, understand the standards better. You understand different models of education better. You're looking at how they manage their staff and faculty in different ways. There isn't better PD out there.
You You just made the list.
Mark your calendars for Insights EDU 2025, February 12th through 14th. Insights EDU 2025 is the can't-miss higher education marketing and enrollment management conference of the year. We're taking over New Orleans with speakers from Google, Meta, Reddit, MIQ Digital, and top schools across the country. Discover how AI is transforming marketing and enrollment management, how to assess online program opportunities, and meet the demands of today's modern learner. Don't wait. Spots are going quickly. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Let's go.
Lucian Live is taking place April 6th through 9th, 2025 in Orlando, Florida.
You just made the list.
Get ready for an unforgettable experience at Lucian Live 2025. Join visionary leaders from institutions worldwide as we dive into groundbreaking ideas, cutting-edge solutions, and transformative best practices that will ignite your passion for innovation. This is your chance to connect, collaborate, and propel your institution into the future. Do not miss out.
Let's go.
Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content, invites to special events, and more? Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Do you want to get all this while helping to sustain EdUp? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and become a subscriber today.
Best visits that you go on are the ones that go well. So usually, it starts on a Sunday, and the Sunday night will be just kind of a little bit of fun. Monday, it's hard work. You're, in almost every case, you think the institution is failing, and you have to go through, interviewing hundreds of people and doing all kinds of things to learn more about the institution. The best visits are where Monday night you kind of figure, okay, this institution's doing fine. Then you've got all day Tuesday to pick people's brains about, hey, how do you do this and how do you do this? That's where we get to learn things and bring back to our own institutions. And that doesn't happen at every visit, because sometimes Tuesday you're doing a lot of work still trying to figure out what's going on. But when you have that luxury, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, we've learned a few things today, have we not, Lori?
Absolutely.
A few things from Trey, a few things from Stephen, and they learned something today, which is that you can have fun at the same time you talk about accreditation on a podcast called The EdUp Experience. Did you guys have a good time today?
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to have Stephen back at some point in the future. We're calling him out here live on the EdUp Experience podcast to come in as one of our presidents on our President series, which, by the way, you guys don't know this, but the EdUp Experience in totality on my show has been downloaded over 400,000 times in the last 5 years. That's not counting all the great work that Lori and the other podcasts do in this network to tell the great story about our colleagues across higher education as we help to restore the value. Not restore the value, to better communicate about that, the value of a higher education in today's
That deserves a sound effect.
My guest today, he's Stephen Rose, president of Passaic County Community College, and Trey Patterson. She's got a long title, Director for Volunteer Services. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.